Good morning. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on this 31st day, the last day of January. How long has it been for you? Is it just 31 days or the proverbial more than that they keep talking about? You're watching Daybreak, and I want to introduce the panel that we have this morning. We have Jonathan Mweke, who is the former Deputy Governor of Nairobi County, also eyeing the Kitui governorship seat. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
And then we have Fred Okango, who is the Secretary, Political Affairs within the Independence Party, KANU. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam.
We're still expecting Senator Ledamo Lekina of Narok, and also Gladys Bose, the woman representative for Uasin Gishu. As soon as they're able to join us, we'll bring them on board to have this conversation about the latest in the world of politics and also the road to elections, what considerations must be put, whether it's in terms of messaging or whether it's in terms of formation of alliances. And now that there's a new law that talks about that by the 9th of April, if any formation would want to morph into a coalition political party, then that's the time they must do so. So we have just about 2 months to do that. We'll be talking about that later on. But quickly go through the dailies. On the front page of the Standard, the story I was telling you about the high cost of living torments Kenyans, and you will see how the increase of bread, the price of bread over the past 10 years is put at 16.9%. You see the cost of 13 kilograms cooking gas. They're saying the cost is 3,000 shillings, although the average is 2,600 in some of the outlets, but others are charging more than that. Then you see that the VAT, the value-added tax, 16%, has raised the prices of fuel, which has a cascade effect. Then increase in retail price of beer between 2011 and 2020 is at 67.4%. Then you have 1.7 million workers who lost their jobs in 2019 due to COVID-19 impact, and then 4 terms in the school year rather than 3 have left families with limited disposable cash. Then you see how 53% of Kenyans are living in multi-dimensional poverty, according to official data, while 5,995 shillings is any worker earning less per month in towns is living below poverty line. You are talking about if there's any worker that earns, so let's just round it off to 6,000 shillings, then they're living below the poverty line, because 6,000 shillings for 30 days would be about 200 shillings, just nearly about $2 a month. Then the inflation data shows cost of living is within expected range, but many don't feel it. And what I want us to have a mention about that, because so much is going on in the political field. Many people are saying different things, but you're not exactly hearing any proposed solutions to the kind of lives that Kenyans are having to lead. Very expensive cost of living. And we are told it's going to get worse because in an election year, the dollar against the shilling is getting more and more expensive. DG, what do you think are the key solutions that we must find through this election?
I think, Sam, we've been very consistent on this. Our economy has been in a crisis, and we have focused on the wrong things. We focused on BBI, while the real crisis in this country was revival of the economy, was putting money in people's pockets, was handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. We've been consistent saying that we are the only party with an agenda, and our bottom-up agenda surely is going to solve this problem. Saying that we are going to invest properly in the sectors that, 1, bring a very, very quick return on investment, and 2, also spur economic growth. So, for example, we've seen very, very large infrastructure projects being done. And the World Bank tells us for every 200,000 shillings invested, 1 job is created. So if you look at, I'll give an example of the bullet factory that was built in Ruiru. For about 4 billion shillings, it only employs 1 million people. 100 people. Yeah, so 4 billion shilling project only employs 100 people. Now, if you took that 4 billion and invested it in an agricultural endeavor for our farmers, subsidize of fertilizer.
Which project is that again?
The Ruiru
bullets.
The firearms factory making guns and
small arms,
and small arms. Yeah, if you took that 4 billion shillings and injected it directly into our agricultural sector, to buy subsidized fertilizers for our farmers, to ensure they get extension workers, to ensure they get good seed so that they can produce and do agribusiness, then you would find that that 4 billion would create 100,000 jobs. So it's how we are investing our money. It's not like we don't have money as Kenyans. It's how we are investing our money. Another thing that has really set the cost of living very, very high is this debt question. Again, we keep talking about it in UDA. We don't see our competitors talking about it. The debt question has really, really hurt us. I think I saw a report the other day showing that 1 trillion shillings from our 1.6 trillion that we collect in taxes goes directly to pay debt. So you're borrowing to do these big infrastructure projects that have 20 or 30-year return on investment and are not employing people. So there's no real productivity. While you could have used that money to invest directly into our small businesses, to widen the tax base so that you can get more businesses into the tax base, to put money in people's pockets. And that's why we are saying bottom up now. Why isn't it, it's now the time to invest money directly into,
I'm struggling with the
pockets.
question, because you're saying, for instance, I think it's more than 1.6 trillion shillings that we collect in form of revenue through KRA. Then 1 trillion is being used to pay the debts. I'm just wondering, because a debt was taken to build the infrastructure, would this money still be available to really invest into the small businesses you're talking about? And then as you invest, how do you then create a demand for those products that the small traders would be dealing with?
You see, especially, let's talk about the agricultural sector, because a lot of our people are farmers. Yeah, if you look at your statistics for the year 2021, Sam, you will find that we imported almost 160 billion shillings of agricultural produce that we could have made here in Kenya. A kilogram of oranges from Egypt costs about 800 shillings a kilogram. Our farmers can grow that if we give them good seed, good fertilizer, get them good extension workers, and inject them with affordable credit. They'll be able to produce the things that we're importing. We're importing rice. We're importing sugar, while our sugar belt is on its knees, right? So we already have demand worth 170 billion shillings that we are not meeting. So why don't we start with that? Now, if you invest that, I come from Kitui, right? And we are planting maize in Kitui, and it's for subsistence, it's for home use because of poverty levels. But if we invested in that farmer in Kitui to plant oranges or grapes or ndengo, green grams, which do very, very well in our environment, or even cotton, yeah, what you'd find is you'd find greater productivity, greater yield, create more jobs, and the demand is there locally even before you begin to export. I thought
Governor Ngilo had tried that with the green grams.
Yes, you have to look through the entire value chain, right? So she had not thought properly about the entire value chain. There's even the post-harvest management. So she went, she planted all these green grams. She couldn't find a market for them because she had not done her marketing strategy properly. And so the farmers got a very, very low deal. Then they couldn't store their green grams because she had not thought about what you call post-harvest management, which is a very, very big factor in the agricultural economy. Right. So it flopped. So these things have to be thought out. And that's why we are saying we are sitting down as a party. We are saying we're going to start building from the bottom up, injecting money and capital in our small businesses, micro, small, and medium enterprises, so that you can stimulate that economy and create jobs. Okay. We're saying we're going to use this capital that we're using for big infrastructure projects to invest directly into productive sectors of our economy, like agriculture. And what that will do is it will bring a very quicker ROI, so we'll get our money back in 2 to 3 years instead of 20 to 30 years. Yeah,
I hear you.
And we'll ensure that we stimulate the economy.
I hear you, but Fred, I asked this question on social media yesterday, and you get a lot of feedback of people complaining about the cost of living itself, whether it's the cost of fuel, the cost of cooking gas, whether they're talking about corruption. No person is specifically detailing how they're going to fix this corruption. And I heard from your campaign, you're saying that however good or great your manifesto is, however good intentioned you are, if you don't deal with theft, then there's nowhere you're headed. So have you seen, not within Oka, but have you seen any specific proposals on how to address the question of corruption, which would appear to also be pushing up the cost of living in Kenya?
Thank you, Sam. For Samuel, before I answer you, allow me just to give a small input on what DG Mweka said. It is true, the cost of living is high, and that is affecting majority of Kenyans. In fact, today, we don't have a middle class in this country. Now, the cost of living can be related to, the high cost of living is actually related to the high taxes and corruption, as I've said. For us, first, as a political party, KANU, we are committing in what we call back to business plan on economy, uchumi na kazi. And we are saying what we are going to do to ensure and guarantee sustainable economy, we must gradually lower VAT, the 16%, from 16 to at least 5% gradually within a period of time, with the 5 years.
And how do you compensate for the source of revenue?
So what we're doing is, when you do that, you widen the tax base. More people will be paying taxes. But ultimately, what you shall have done, you shall have lowered the cost of doing business, you shall have eased it, and we are saying, in doing that, you cannot do it alone, because a lot of money is wasted in terms of projects that are not sustainable. Number two, a lot of money is wasted that goes into individual pockets through theft of that money. So we are saying we must introduce punitive measures that will stop theft of public money. And that's why Senator Gideon Moi has been saying, tutaweka kichwa kando na mwili kando. Figuratively, it means we must fight corruption tooth and nail. One of the issues we have identified is life imprisonment. Because when you steal money meant for road construction, you are actually making it difficult to have roads, and you are causing accidents.
But
when you steal money,
how do you do that in a country,
for hospitals, you are actually denying people oxygen. So for us, we are saying the most important thing, Sam, is while we are fixing the economy to make it sustainable by investing in manufacturing, agriculture, and food production, then the first thing that we are going to do in ensuring that we have a sustainable economy as KANU is to commit, not to promise, on the taxes and lower the cost of doing business, then lower the cost of living, and fight corruption to turn.
So if you have to fight that corruption, you know, in this country, the past few years, there has been this accusation that is being used as a political weapon. Deputy President has spoken about it. Musalia Mudavadi actually spoke about it on 23rd of January this year, when he said that it was being used to deal with opponents or to silence people. So how exactly do you deal with that vice in a country so polarized and political as one we have? Yet, you know, usually the people that are fueling this corruption is people that are in political leadership.
Some, in my mother tongue, there is no definition of corruption. Actually, the word corruption means theft. If I ask you from your mother tongue, you'll tell me the same thing. That basically means that corruption do not choose. In fact, corruption is systemic. It's no longer systematic. And you cannot say that corruption is a weapon when it is not working for you now. While it was working for you the other time, it was never a weapon. We have seen politicians move camp, they change goalposts. When they move to one side that is corruption thriving, then they start saying, no, 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 it is now being used against us. In KANU, we are very specific and we are categorical that corruption is the #1 killer of this economy. Corruption is the #1 killer of our people, because it is denying us opportunity, denying us jobs, denying us development. We must finish it, and in finishing it, we also must finish those who propagate corruption. And we are saying, if we are polarized, and we are using corruption as a tool. We have enough laws in this country to deal with corruption. Those laws have been tried, but do you know why some of them are not working? Because there are certain individuals that have been tasked also to implement those laws. Within themselves, they're also corrupt. So we need a government that will implement fully the anti-corruption laws. We need a government that will also ensure that we have got political tolerance, and we are also a government that has got goodwill, political goodwill to fight corruption. Because today, I don't think, in my honest view, that some of the people that are saying the corruption is being used as a tool to fight them are willing to fight it. Because among themselves, within themselves, they harbor and condone corruption.
All right, I hear you. DG, do you think it's realistic for any politician or political formation to promise that they are going to lower the taxes at a time that, you know, out of a budget of 3.6 trillion going up, so much money is going to, as you said, paying debts, financing government, whether it's at the national level or at the county level, and very little is remaining to finance development. So if you are to cut on taxation, then how do you balance your equations?
You see, Nelson Mandela, the first president of South Africa, said that poverty is man-made. It's made by humans. It's not like colonialism or apartheid that was brought unto us. So these are solutions that if we sat down as leaders and say that we are going to reduce the cost of living, if we sat down as leaders and say that we are going to improve the lives of our people, if we sat down as leaders and prioritized what the needs of our people are, these problems can be solved. If you look at the numbers, in our budget, there is 400 billion shillings that goes to development. The key question is, how is this money put to use by the leaders that we have in place? You can choose, like to say, build a bullet factory or a gun factory. I don't know who those guns are helping.
But
right?
The country needs small arms.
No, but
for the security agencies.
Yes, but we already have those small arms. So why are we producing more? Don't you see every policeman with a gun on the streets? So why are we producing guns? And more importantly, who is it helping? How is it helping our normal mwananchi to improve their lives? Because it employs 100 people. I'm talking about how we are employing our 400 billion shillings, And I'd like us to be very, very objective, because this is the major problem we have in this country. We're in an economic crisis. We're not in a coalition-making crisis. We are not in a constitutional crisis. We're in an economic crisis. And we have to be very objective on how we are going to solve this big problem that we ourselves have put Kenyans into.
Honorable Mweke, you actually think we don't need any more small arms?
What I'm saying is, how do you allocate capital? And I'll give more examples. And I'm not saying that you don't need small arms. I'm saying, what are your priorities? You know, as a leader, good leaders are able to differentiate what is vital and what is important. What is vital is revival of our economy so that our people can be able to be uplifted and live comfortable lives. Right? What might be important is building guns. So if I was the leader of this country, I'd pick, of course, what is vital to what is important. It's about prioritization on what you want to get done. So I was saying, we have 400 billion shillings of development money we get every year. What do we do with it? Do you build overhead expressways, or do you invest in agriculture, like I said? Do you invest in our small businesses, like I said? Now, you're talking about taxes. There's clever ways to do that. I got a report the other day that KRA only collects 52% of VAT. Right? So if you collected the other 48%, guess what? You have found another 400 billion. Right? That's money that's already there. It's about sealing of the loopholes and going in to collect the money from people who are not submitting their VAT like they should. So there's several ways to be able to skin this cat. I strongly believe that we are prioritizing our needs wrongly. Sam, I will finish this. I know you want to go to our next topic. I'll finish this by saying, we have parliament that's supposed to be legislating about things like this.
Right.
We saw parliament in the last 3 weeks working almost until midnight to pass a law called the Political Parties Act, Amendment Act, so that you can create coalitions, so that political parties can get money from the exchequer, so that people can get positions. If we used that same energy of working and burning the midnight oil to legislate against this high cost of living, to legislate what is it that we need to do to put money in our people's pockets, to legislate on how we are going to seriously tackle corruption,
right,
so that we can seal those leaks and send those leaks into our citizens' pockets by doing things that matter to the ordinary mwananchi, would be very far ahead as a country.
All right, I hear you.
But we are using our money to do BBI.
Okay.
We are using our resources to change the law, to create coalitions.
I'll give you an opportunity.
And positions for our leaders instead of legislating for the common man.
I'll give you an opportunity because
our problems can be solved.
We will get to that conversation that you're eager to have about what next, especially for political parties and the formations that you'll be seeing. So text in your views via 2242 or Twitter's at Citizen TV Kenya at Sam Gichuku. The hashtag to use is Daybreak. Senator Ledamo Lekina is joining us after the break. Stay tuned. We're back in a moment.